This weekend. For those of you from out of town here, this is one of many events, and Governor Mike Pence made a declaration. This is a proclamation for Peace Officers Appreciation Week in the state of Indiana. And so you guys are officially in a state recognized celebration. I'd like to read it to you. This is State of Indiana Executive Department, Executive Proclamation. To all whom these presents come, greetings. Whereas law enforcement officers play an invaluable role in maintaining peace and order in our society. And whereas officers willingly place their lives at risk daily for the well-being of others. And whereas those honorably serving provide positive role models that are worthy of emulation. And whereas law enforcement families make great personal sacrifice to enable this service. Now therefore, I, Michael R. Pence, Governor of the state of Indiana, do hereby proclaim September 26th through October 2nd, 2016 as Peace Officers Appreciation Week in the state of Indiana, and invite all citizens to duly note this occasion. So you guys, this is for you. This whole thing is a bunch of people trying to honor you because you're doing something in a time right now where I don't even think you understand the importance of what you're doing, maybe. Okay? Look what the words say here. It says, the day will not come in Christ's birth until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness revealed. And I got news for you. Lawlessness and law enforcement are on a collision course right now. And it's different than any time I've ever seen. There's a different spirit about it, and you have to understand. I want you to look at this one. I saw the souls that were beheaded because of their testimony for Jesus. Once again, just the beheading aspect. For those of us who have been around for a while, 15 years ago, beheadings weren't really an issue. And you look right now, it's a mainstream practice, and it's interesting. Nation, ethnos, is the Greek word. The New Testament was written in Koine Greek. Ethnos will rise against ethnos, ethnic group against ethnic group. That there are going to be those who try to come in and stir social unrest or racial unrest to the point where it's at a boiling point. And so I'm looking at this right now, and my heart breaks because I feel like you guys are the frontline warriors called to do something about it. And my passion right now is because you can feel it. I know a lot of you from all over the country. You can feel something's coming. You can feel it down inside. And you guys are going to be called to pick up the pieces of a world gone mad. And I just want today, our hope is to try to help you to see. We brought in some of the top warriors around the country to share what it looked like in the middle of the hardest situations. When it's 11:59, it looked like it's an impossibility. And the difference it made, knowing that there's a God up in heaven in some of the stories. And no one's going to push anything down your throat, but they're going to share something with you. But before I do that, I want to ask you something. We are in the land of the free, home of the brave. And what is freedom? You know, we talk about fighting overseas. We do everything else. We talk about the 4th of July. What is freedom? And where would I go to find out what freedom is? I mean, who can give me a working definition of freedom? Anybody? You can.
Interactive.
It's what?
Interactive. No.
It's interactive. Okay. Oh, he's saying that we're supposed to interact. You know what number one answer I get? It's the ability to do what I want. And my question is, what's anarchy? See, we've bought a false bill of goods in this nation. Okay? And the question is, where would I find out where freedom is? Where would I find out? I want you to look at a quote here, just to give an illustration here. Edmund Burke. Okay? Edmund Burke was a British statesman around the same time that the United States, the founding of the nation. And Edmund Burke said this. He said, men are qualified for civil liberty in exact proportion of their disposition to put moral chains upon their own appetites. He said, society cannot exist unless a controlling power upon will and appetite be placed somewhere, and the less there is within, the more there must be without. He said, it's ordained in the eternal constitution of things, the men of intemperate minds cannot be free. Their passions form their fetters. And what he said was basically this, is this great experiment called America had a foundational premise that it was built upon self-governance. That you had people who had a moral foundation, who did the right thing in their responsibilities to their fellow man. And to the degree that we did that, we didn't need outside laws containing their wayward behavior. But as man becomes more and more lawless inside, as they choose to not do the right thing inside and exploit their neighbors and vilify them and kill them and do all this stuff, that's where your role comes in. So we're at a time in history where, we've lost our moorings. Next slide. I want you to look at this, what George Washington said, founding father. Of all the dispositions and habits that lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these pillars of human happiness, these firmest props of duties and men and citizens. So you look at right there, that whole element there. It's not the government's job to do that, okay? That's the church's job, so I'm not pushing that. What I'm saying is you're picking up the pieces because men's hearts at one time had a standard to live by. Next slide. And look right here. This is just one illustration, Updegraft versus the Commonwealth. Back at the beginning of this country, we didn't have Supreme Court decisions. It was a lot state-based, and it wasn't until later on in 1800s where we started really getting Supreme Court decisions because of a number of reasons. But look what they said in the Supreme Court state of Pennsylvania, 1824. Christianity, general Christianity is and has always been a part of the common law. Not Christianity founded on any particular religious tenets, not Christianity with the established church, but Christianity with liberty of conscience to all men. This is the Christianity of the common law. So we had a foundation in this nation because the understanding is when people went out and had a moral standard that was taught to them at home, taught to them at schools, taught to them at church, then you as a cop didn't have to deal with them near as bad as when they reject that, they become lawless in their hearts and they start spazzing, going crazy. And so basically this whole thing is this. At once upon a time for this great thing called freedom, freedom is the ability to do what's right, my responsibility to you. Freedom is the ability to sit here at every given point to try to do the honoring thing to you. It's not to do anything I want. But you have that, please help me to do the right thing. But we have bondage, we have a give me culture. That the heart of Christianity said it was basically this, that you're born self-centered, your whole gravitation and fixations toward you, and that everything you want to do is to lie, kill, exploit, do whatever else to your neighbor. And what it takes to contain that is outside forces that deal with that stuff. And that's where you come in. When people are lawless on the inside, you have a mandate. And so there's a Bible verse that just illustrates, and this is your bread and butter. All I'm trying to do is help you to see what you already know. And it says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires of battle within you? You want something, but you don't get it. You kill and you covet, but you cannot have what you want. You quarrel and fight, and you do not have because you do not ask God. And when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your own pleasures. All it's saying right there is self-centered individuals don't give a crap about anything. And every call that you guys have had throughout the years, those of you retired, every call that you're having, those curling in the trenches, has one common element, and it's self-centered people who don't really care about their responsibilities to their fellow man. And they go out and they don't give a crap. They do what they want. And you're picking up the pieces because the culture melts down. When America quits being one people with a common focus, they become 330 million pieces that all eat each other. And God said, you're his servant to do something about it. And the whole thing gets kind of confusing when it comes to this God thing. I just want to show you an aspect here to illustrate a point. You know, the question gets to be, who's God? It's interesting, it says in Exodus 15:3, and this is a lot of confused people out there as far as interfacing with Christianity. It says the Lord's a warrior. He's strong and mighty in battle. He's a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows. And look what this says. He hates a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush to evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a man who stirs up dissension among brothers. Sound like anybody you know? He loves justice and he hates robbery and iniquity. You know, you don't understand, but your job is patterning off of someone who made this whole thing. The one that the founders put in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That Creator we're referencing there ordained a system that men do the right thing, and we had a country, we had a blessing with that. But once they quit doing the right thing, then suddenly there's forces out there called to do something about it, and those forces reflect who God is and what he wants to do, because look what it says in the next slide. Chesterton said the true warrior fights not because he hates what's in front of him, because he loves what's behind him. See, there's a difference. There's forces that hate in war, but there's forces that love in war. There's forces that sit there and put their lives in harm's way, who go in when other people are running out, who do the right thing, who go out and have to have superior force to take over that, because otherwise what we have is a world full of cannibals that just exploit, destroy. You go to Somalia, the general will probably talk about, and you go over and see what life's like over there. You see the warlords who just whoever has the power has control. And it's interesting, in the middle of the whole experience, God said, I look for a man among them or a woman among them. My females in here, this is a generic term here, so please don't throw anything at me. You're just as valid. It's just talk about man in general here. I look for a man among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land so I would not have to destroy it, but I found none. This whole imagery here of once upon a time, at that time, was a civilization that was surrounded by a wall, and that wall kept everything good and pure and holy, everything that they embraced as a culture inside. And the forces that sought to destroy that culture would be on the outside. And there's a unique group of people, a unique group of men and women who are called to do something no one else was called to do. Their job was to walk that wall. Their job was to sit here and be vigilant to look into darkness, because they understood the threat. They knew what could happen. And the people inside didn't appreciate it. They didn't know, because they hadn't experienced violence. And so it's an ordained calling, because what happens when evil attacks is they would sit there and breach the wall. And when they tore that wall down, all the forces of hell would come through there. And God said he looked for a man among them, a woman among them, who would run in when everybody else is running out. And that's you guys. You guys have a divine calling to go in there and to run in when others are running out. But notice there's a two-pronged thing there: to stand in the gap and fight, and to build the wall up. There's a two-pronged thing in Romans chapter 13. He's God's servant to do you good and to punish the evildoer. That to do everything I can, you have a force continuum where I try to bless, encourage, admonish you to do the right thing. And if I have to in this end, I kill your butt because you made the choice. And that's all God. That whole thing's God. And I want you to know right now, it's okay. It's okay to be a kick-butt warrior. It's okay to be someone who's out there standing right now. It's okay to go out there when they don't understand in the culture, and you got to take on the forces of darkness that are trying to kill us off. It's okay. And not only is it okay, there's a God up in heaven who ordained your work, and he wants to encourage you. He wants you to stand valiantly, and he wants you to go out there and do what his bidding was, is to go out there and make a difference and plug the hole. But the problem gets to be in this whole sport is there's a cost for doing business. There's a cost for doing business. The last reliable statistics we have, and police are all over the place, but our Badge of Life has, they did a big study in 2012. They're getting ready to do a new one this year. But we had 2.6 times as many cops killed themselves as died from felonious gunfire. We have a 75% divorce rate, conservatively. Okay, we have 12 to 15% or 15 to 8%, depends on whose statistics you use, that suffer some kind of PTSD. And I'm telling you right now, a big part of that is because we try to do it ourselves. And my question gets to be, has your firearms training helped offset those statistics? Have we been addressing it through defensive driving or whatever else we're doing? Have we sit there and been trained about it on force training? No, we're not touching it. There's something that's killing us at 2.6 times as many as everything out there. There's something that's destroying our relationships, and we're not dealing with it in the culture. And what I want to do today is to try to help give you a clue. No one will shove anything down your throat today, but they're going to share with you their own personal stuff. You're going to hear from today from warriors who have been in there, who have been in gunfights and shootings and crazy stuff like's never happened before. But they're going to tell you what that did for them and what they discovered and how to survive. And our hope is it'll be an encouragement to you, because you have a gap. Do you understand that? And I want to share with you one little principle here that I hope will be a blessing to you. You have a gap. See, our job's not to worry about all America. You're in some town. You're in some county. You're in some state. And you got a specifically assigned gap. That's your responsibility. And one of the greatest tools that evil uses is it tries to take your focus off something. Because you have a sphere of influence. You have your neighbors, you may have a family, church, softball, whatever it is, those are people that you interact with. And what evil's greatest thing is those are things within your control. I can influence my neighborhood. I can influence my department. I can influence other people all over the place. It's the people I interact with daily. But what evil does is it gets your focus on things out of your control. I look at a cop who starts his journey, and he starts at the beginning, and I can't get enough of this job. You guys remember that day? You remember when I couldn't get enough? I can't believe you're paying me. I would do this for twice as long for no pay at all, because I can't believe it, how much I love this job. And I can get down 20, 30 years down the road, and I've talked to two guys in my life. I've talked to a couple guys in my life who are ready to end things. And the question gets to be is what changed? Are you still dealing with the same clientele? Yeah. Do you have the same less than stellar leadership, maybe? Yes. What changes? You changed. What changes? You bid on stuff that you had no control over. You know, it may have been your chief or your sheriff. You may not like it to the point where it started eating your lunch. And we know about that at Elkhart, unfortunately. Okay? Because we had one of our officers shoot himself and committed suicide right in the lobby in front of everybody because he was mad at the chief. Okay, you want to talk about scarring hearts? It could be something else here. You know, we can look at the president and what's going on. We can look at some injustice happen. But at the end of the day, the number one tool of evil is to get you focused on something you have no control over until it affects the things you do. And what happens when that happens? Yeah. Yeah. I love you too. You guys are hard. It's a hard crowd, man. Good thing I'm resilient. But you know, at the end of the day, what happens is your sphere of influence diminishes. And that keeps happening to the point where you're a chronic complainer who's doing no good at all. But there's a different principle at work. You know, the reality gets to be is if I'm faithful in little things, I'll be faithful in much. And so what I want to encourage you is the fact that, notice what this verse says, and once again, I'm going to close with this. If anyone serves, he should do it in the strength God provides. We're in a day in history right now, okay? And I'm sorry, but it's my firm conviction that the coming days are a no-win situation for law enforcement. A no-win situation because if Hillary Clinton wins, everything we've held dear, everything we've held on, the Constitution itself is going to be shredded. And you're going to have to pick up the pieces. And if Donald Trump wins, the Black Lives Matter, they just got $100 million from the Ford Foundation indirectly, and a number of things, and they're going to torch America if they can. And we're in a time coming up here right now where you guys are frontline defenders. I'm a United States Marine. I love my country. I've done everything in my power to try to make a difference in my country. And there's been 7 million people who have shed their blood so that we could be here today. There's 7 million people throughout all the wars who believed in a concept that was so important that they would sit there and go into harm's way and die for it. They believed in a brotherhood, a sisterhood of those around them whom they loved dearly, who were out there for the same reason, whether it be right or wrong. They had each other in a brotherhood. And they gave their lives, and their blood demands that we fight till there's nothing left. Their blood demands that we stand in the gap. Their blood demands that we sit out there and honor them and everything they've given and every sacrifice they made. And we go out here for the sake of our kids, for the sake of our grandkids, for the sake of the future of this country, and we make a stand. And we stand till there's nothing left because this country was built on a bunch of people who in the darkest hour, when it was 11:59 and they thought it was all over with, when it seemed hopeless and they're outnumbered, outgunned, out everything, but they had something down inside that kept them there. And they fought till there was nothing left, and we're reading their exploits. And God said a couple of things. Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 1, he said this, go up and down the streets of Jerusalem. If you can find but one man who deals honestly with truth, I'll forgive this city. One man, one woman, dealing with the truth. Getting their focus on who's in charge of this mess. Because at the end of the day, you work for God, and you're not going to get the public's affection because the public, well, I take that back. There's a lot of people that are silent that love you guys dearly. You come tomorrow and see what happens. You'll be blessed like you've never seen. But the riffraff is busy making the squawk and all that stuff. And I can say this because I get the chief in trouble, and I apologize, chief. but the people are doing the squawking right now. You're not gonna get their favor because the reason this happened is because they've lost this sense of responsibility of their fellow man. They think everything's a silver spoon, should be fed to them, and we owe them everything. That's not the way this country is founded. It was about individual responsibility, and the thing called freedom was responsibility-based. You have rights and rules and stuff, but they're either establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, or secure the blessings of liberty. But if they're not doing one of those things, then they're not really constitutional rights, because it's your obligation to the whole of America that counts. And every decision we make at the center of Christianity is the fact that I'm supposed to be other-oriented. I'm supposed to care about others. And you guys exemplify that in a beautiful way. And I just want you to know there's a God up in heaven who wants to empower you, encourage you. And I pray today you're refreshed in a wonderful way. And we love you dearly. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm in the trenches full-time as a law enforcement chaplain. And for those of you who may hear this recording, I'm not on the payroll there, so if I get a little loose, the chief doesn't, he's trying to rein me in. And the fact gets to be is I got people in this community who support me because they believe in what I'm doing. And just know this, I see the inside view. I see the cost to you and your families. I see the people you have to deal with. And when I sit there and we make a proclamation, when I put something to the governor and he signs it, and guess what happens on day one? Day one, some woman comes and she comes to our back door catching an officer off guard, going off after duty, and she sits there and drops off 2 dead kids. And you know, if you're an officer, the hardest thing to deal with is kids. And so you're going to do a 1-2 punch. Catch me when I'm vulnerable and don't make mental preparation, and then you're going to dump kids on me. And that's evil incarnate. That's evil incarnate. Okay. On day one of Peace Officers Appreciation Week in the state of Indiana, in the very agency where this whole thing originated. And I'm telling you right now, we're fighting a spiritual battle, but there's one who's greater than all of that. And he wants to empower you. He wants to give you victory, and he wants you to stand strong. So you guys be encouraged. Know that you're on the divine mission. Know that you got a bunch of people that love you here in northern Indiana, and it's a team here all over. It isn't Jim Bontrager or anything. It's a whole bunch of hardworking people who believe in you, want to love you, support you and your families. And I read the last chapter, we win, and they can't mess it up, man. And I'm telling you what, until then, man, I'm going to go out swinging. You know, and I know every one of you guys feel the same way. So I appreciate you, and just love you dearly. So